Few things are more American than the essence of pride, discipline, and teamwork. No other man-made organization defines these traits better than the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy. These pilots and their aircraft have answered their nation's call in peace and in war. They are, after all, fighter pilots, and the aircraft they flew in the past, fly today, and will fly in the 21st century, are deadly weapon systems.
We have no choice but to drive Saddam from Kuwait by force. We will not fail.
There's another side to the F-16, a side that can't be seen at air shows or public displays. It's not just a beautiful aircraft, it's also a brutal weapon of war. The ruthless nature of the Fighting Falcon was revealed when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in August 1990. When President Bush made his promise, it was up to the F-16 to keep it. Heading into the unknown, waiting for a turn on the fuel boom, pilots wondered about the mission ahead. Would their aircraft, their training, and their weapons do the job? Or would the Iraqis have a surprise for them in the desert skies? After their non-stop flight, the Falcons landed at modern air bases like Al-Kahar in Saudi Arabia and joined the growing coalition air forces. 8 days after Iraq invaded Kuwait, F-16s were sitting, alert, with weapons loaded. By the time the deployment was over, the United States had moved 249 F-16s into the Gulf War theater. The might of America's air power would all jostle for tarmac and hangar space as the rhythm of war accelerated.
East of that point, about 500 feet, 2828 down that creek prior to get to that point, check in. First point, road T, we've all looked at it a lot, do that, make it on time. Just on the other side of the driveway, should be pointing just barely to the right of Shadow Mountain.
January 17, 1991, the air war began. America's airmen felt the cold chill of anticipation and the hot rush of combat in the first few hours. The first F-16 strike packages took off at 4 a.m., rendezvousing in the dark with tanker aircraft and their fighter aircraft. The formation crossed the Iraqi border at first light and was hitting its targets at sunrise. No doubt you've seen how precision-guided munitions could zero in on Iraqi bunkers, command posts, and armor. For the F-16, the air war was usually less dramatic, but often more important. Dogfighting is what the F-16 was built for, and what it's best at. But in the Gulf War, by far the most important role it played was as a fighter bomber. The first priority was the defense suppression mission, knocking out the thousands of Iraqi surface-to-air and anti-aircraft artillery sites in Kuwait and Iraq itself. The acronym the Air Force used was SEAD, or Suppression of Enemy Air Defenses. The F-16 went into battle with an M61A1 Vulcan 20mm cannon, AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles, Mark 82 500-pound bombs, Mark 84 2,000-pound bombs, CBU-87 tactical munitions dispensers, high-speed anti-radiation missiles and older cluster bombs left over from the Vietnam era. The part played by in-flight refueling was one of the least publicized aspects of Desert Storm. However, many coalition aircraft, including F-16s, would take off without full fuel in order to carry more weapons. They had to mid-air refuel before entering hostile airspace. And depending on the amount of evasive action that they had to take, they would probably require a fuel top-up on the way home as well.
Coming up on the right, sir.
Okay, we've got another 5 coming up over here on the right. You two go to the lead tanker, you two go to the number 2 tanker, and they'll brief a port or starboard hose. So, they have a hose to go to, that's what they go to.
Okay, got you coming up on your left, sir. Is that a CDL out of your craft?
Yeah, I've got 2 F-18s down here on my left.
Can you get that, Dave? It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a pretty day, isn't it?
Positive contact. Punka, Scott 2375, good day.
He understands contact, Punka.
Pike 4-3 will be in railroad. Plus 56. Base plus 56.
Okay. A little bit high, count 3. Sorry guys, that flash, I thought maybe a bit of reserve out there. There's 2,500, you need some more. That's good. Cheers, well through.
Thinking about jets swooping in on targets at a few hundred feet? Think again. The typical fighter-bomber target entry height was 20,000 feet, and pull-out height was 15,000 feet. Instead of attacking specific targets, the Falcons would be directed to kill boxes, 30 miles by 30 miles square. The pilot has begun his attack run and is lining up on the target. Bombs away. The Falcon stands on its wing to see where the bomb has impacted. There. High-altitude bombing like this was necessary in the first few weeks of the war because of the tremendous volume of anti-aircraft fire at lower altitudes. British and French Jaguar and Tornado fighters went in at low level and suffered severely from anti-aircraft defenses.
We must be realistic. There will be losses. There will be obstacles along the way. And war is never cheap or easy.
As the pressure mounted on the Iraqis, the weight of AAA diminished, and the F-16s attacked at lower and lower altitudes themselves. By the time the war was over 43 days later, F-16s would fly 13,500 combat missions, deliver 20,000 tons of bombs, more than 40% of the total drop by the U.S. Air Force, and win praise as the backbone of the coalition's air effort. One reason for the high sortie rate was the rapid turnaround at facilities like this hot pit refueling site. Just as in the Second World War, pilots stayed in their aircraft with the engines running while they took on fuel in order to maximize airtime. When the Gulf War ended, the Fighting Falcon emerged with the highest sortie rate and mission capability rate of all participating coalition fighters. The job had to be done. The F-16 and its air crew were ready, willing, and able to do it. This is Italy, 1993. And just a few short minutes across the Adriatic Sea is Bosnia-Herzegovina, a land ripped apart by religious hatred, ethnic cleansing, brutal atrocities. How can an aircraft end man's inhumanity to man? From transmitters to bunkers, vehicle parks to ammo dumps, all the assets of the former Yugoslavian army lay open to the air. The Serbs knew this and would try to defend them. Flying on behalf of the United Nations in Operation Deny Flight, the F-16 would have to show the Serbs they had no chance of winning. On February 28, 1994, 2 United States F-16s shot down 4 Serbian aircraft in the no-fly zone. One of the F-16s used 2 AIM-9 missiles, and the other an AMRAAM, an advanced medium-range air-to-air missile, marking the F-16's third combat victory with AMRAAM and the first triple kill by a U.S. Air Force pilot since the Korean War. By August 1996, the 42 F-16s of the 31st Fighter Wing had flown 4,146 sorties in Operation Deny Flight, a grand total of 12,698 mission hours. In the Gulf War, F-16s operated largely in free fire zones where most ordnance was dropped on targets of opportunity. That's possible in a wide-ranging desert war, but it wasn't possible in the former Yugoslavia, where innocent civilians were often mere yards for potential antagonists. The solution was to upgrade the F-16 so it could navigate with pinpoint accuracy and then take on targets identified by observers on the ground. The upgrade involved 2 pieces of specialized equipment: IDM target handoff devices and the low-altitude navigation and targeting infrared for night system known as Lantern. The IDM units allow ground observers to designate targets and have this information displayed in the aircraft head-up display. The Lantern system, deployed in an underwing pod, allows pilots to fly in the dark at low altitude through mountainous terrain. 38 operational F-16Cs and Ds were modified to accept IDM, as well as Lantern, precision-guided munitions, the high-speed anti-radiation missile called HARM, and pod-carried electro-optical reconnaissance sensors, among other things. Many commentators predicted trying to end the Bosnian War with air power was doomed to failure. In fact, the mission was a brilliant success, bringing home to Serb soldiers and leaders alike there was nowhere to hide. The certain knowledge a 500-pound bomb could be tossed into their command post made the warring leaders see sense. On April 10, 1994, United States F-16s dropped 3 500-pound bombs on Serb ground targets while flying combat air patrol missions. The war in Bosnia pointed out the great strengths of the F-16. Because it can carry a tremendous load under its wings, it can be tailored to carry out any kind of offensive or defensive role. The F-16 can carry more than 50 different types of external ordnance, targeting pods, surveillance equipment, and fuel containers. But while Lockheed Martin has been working to hang new and ever more lethal equipment under the F-16's wings, it's also been re-engineering and re-engining the plane to provide improved fight and flight capabilities. The F-16 was a revolutionary aircraft from the beginning, a major reversal in fighter design. It emphasized flight performance in the heart of the flight envelope, where air combat occurs. Its design allows sustained 9G maneuvering even when carrying full fuel and air-to-air missiles. One of the most exciting joint programs in flight testing now is to design and build a thrust vectoring system which will increase the F-16's already awesome dogfighting capability. The F-16 is now the world's most sought-after fighter, with more than 3,500 flying with 19 different air forces. The F-16 must be a frontrunner for the title of most versions in the shortest time. Probably the most radical redesign is this F-16XL, codenamed SCAMP. Technologies learned from this aircraft will be incorporated into future F-16s and the new FSX fighter being developed in Japan. To maintain the capabilities of any high-performance aircraft in an ever-changing threat environment, requires continual testing of new upgrades and new specialized mission applications. Flight testing of all F-16 variants is conducted at the F-16 Combined Test Force Flight Test Center at Fort Worth, Texas, and at Edwards Air Force Base, California. The F-16 Combined Test Force is now flying more F-16 flight hours than when the aircraft was in full-scale development over 18 years ago. Some 20 pilots and 15 fully instrumented aircraft are committed to these F-16 test programs. The Variable Stability In-Flight Simulator Test Aircraft, or VISTA, which you see here, is a highly modified one-of-a-kind F-16D that is being used to flight test a thrust vectoring system and the flight control computers for the new F-22 Advanced Tactical Fighter. New weapon systems, new thrust vectoring, new variants. It's no wonder the F-16 will be the United States Air Force's primary fighter until at least the year 2020. The future, meanwhile, is almost here. It uses stealth technology learned with the F-117, and it looks like this. The F-22, America's advanced tactical fighter for the 21st century. The F-22 is much larger, faster, more maneuverable, and stealthier than the F-16. While it rolls out of its hangar, let's look at the features of this 21st century aircraft. The F-22 pilot sits upright on a 0-0 ejection seat that can get him out safely at 0 speed and 0 height. He's covered by an unbroken bubble-style canopy that provides the maximum all-round view. His instruments are a combination of liquid crystal color displays and a head-up display. And to control the aircraft, he uses hands, feet, and voice command and control. The F-22 had 3 major design criteria to meet. It had to be able to cruise at supersonic speeds without the use of afterburners. It had to incorporate stealth technology to defeat advanced radar defense systems. And it had to be able to vector its engine thrust for superior maneuverability in air-to-air combat. The short, angular F-22 has a comparatively large, diamond-shaped wing, splayed twin vertical tails, and large horizontal tails. The wing is, in fact, very nearly a delta, with 48 degrees of sweep on the leading edge, a nearly straight trailing edge, and a very small tip chord. The wing blends into the fuselage to provide a lifting body area. The engine intakes sit astride a short, tapered nose, which houses the cockpit and most of the avionics. The inlet ducts curve inwards and upwards, shielding the front faces of the engine from direct illumination by radar. Perhaps the biggest single difference between the F-22 and current fighter aircraft is that it's designed to carry all its weapons internally to reduce its radar signature. These will include 6 radar-guided AIM-120C medium-range air-to-air missiles, 2 heat-seeking short-range AIM-9M Sidewinders, an internal 20mm cannon, and 2 1,000-pound GBU-32 Joint Direct Attack munitions. It will be, to put it simply, a very clean machine. From the pilot's point of view, the best part of flying the F-22 will be the plane's vectored thrust. This will allow him, in effect, to turn tighter corners in the sky, jumping up around, and behind opponents before they even know it. The F-22 accomplishes this with two-dimensional thrust vectoring nozzles that operate through 20 degrees at any power setting. Combined with large leading-edge wing flaps and overall low wing loading, the nozzles permit maneuvering at low speeds and high flight angles. Best of all, the new flight control technology is completely transparent to the pilot. He'll just want something, and it'll happen. America's success in defense technology is both a virtue and a problem for the F-22. The design was born during the free-spending Reagan years, but now it's coming into production in the post-Cold War era.
Got the flaps down.
Control? No.
Current plans call for the Air Force's Air Combat Command to achieve initial operational capability with the F-22 in late 2004. No matter what the size of the contract and rate of production, the F-22 remains a major success for American technology.
America will not stand aside. The world will not allow the strong to swallow up the weak.
The Gulf War was testing time not only for Hornet pilots, but their aircraft as well. What would be the outcome if it went one-on-one with the Russian fighters available to the Iraqis? Other than the 1986 operation against Libya, Desert Storm was the Hornet's first combat test. Flying from air bases in Bahrain and from aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf, both models of the Hornet honed their dogfighting and ground attack skills against other coalition forces as the preparations for war in the Mideast escalated.
Parker, 8 tall left 4, good turn on the reversal. Box 1 on the F5, nose down. 8 tall on the turkey in the left turn. Okay, bogey on the left side. I got him. 3.5 minutes.
When Desert Storm began, Hornets not only dropped bombs with pinpoint accuracy, but provided their own escort to and from the targets. One of their most important missions was SEAD, or suppression of enemy air defenses. In fact, the Hornets' first mission of the war took place before the first bombs hit Baghdad, when they used high-speed anti-radiation missiles to destroy Iraqi air defense radars and clear a path to Baghdad for the initial attacks. On the first daylight raid, a flight of 4 carrier-based FA-18Cs from the aircraft carrier Saratoga were approaching their target, an airfield codenamed H-3 in western Iraq, when one of the Saratoga's E-2C Hawkeye radar aircraft spotted 2 bandits 15 miles ahead. They were loaded down with 2,000-pound bombs, but unlike previous Navy aircraft, Hornets were designed to go from the ground attack role to the dogfight role with just a flick of the switch.
Bandit, 230, 30 miles. New picture, Bandit, 190, 20 Manny.
Take that wing, Mongo, not spread. Better wing. Get out of my way.
Bandit, 240, 14, hot. Hot on the aircraft, 235, 30 from Manny. 304, that's you. Bandit is east to 3.
Would it fare as well as the Air Force Strike Eagles that had downed 3 Mirage F-1s and 3 MiG-29s on the first night of the war?
Bandit Manny, 185-25, southbound.
Then, Lieutenant Commander Mark Fox got a lock on one of the 2 MiG-21s, and 2 of the other 4 pilots did as well. Both groups of aircraft were approaching each other at Mach 1.2 supersonic speeds.
200 radar contact on my nose. Mach at 28,000.
Aircraft in position 170-35.
200 bogey on the nose. 28,000. 7 miles. Take 21. EID. Roger, block. Trail section, stand by for BID. Coming down my nose, right side, Mach.
Fox's Hornet fired its Sidewinder heat-seeking missile first. Then, a Sparrow radar-guided missile. There was a fireball.
That's a MiG-21. That's a MiG-21. Yep, that's confirmed. Splash forward!
Then his wingman fired a second missile, and there was a second fireball. Throughout the engagement with the MiGs, the Navy aircraft kept their bombs. And following their 2 kills, Lieutenant Commander Fox and his wingman rejoined the other 2 Hornets and continued with their bombing attack. The whole battle had taken less than 40 seconds and is believed to have been the first time that an aircraft has scored an air-to-air kill while carrying bombs. As the 4 F-18s peeled away from the Iraqi airfield and headed south, they could see 2 columns of black smoke rising up from the desert where the MiGs had crashed, hitting the ground in the same relative formation as when they were shot down. These 2 kills were the Navy's only confirmed air-to-air kills of Iraqi fixed-wing aircraft. If ever confirmation was needed, this was it. The Hornet could fight its way to a target, brush aside the opposition, and then bomb with precision.
730 approach, taking is 1.2, clear downwind apart beam heading 042. 730. Proceed 611 approach.
They said it couldn't be done. Combine offense with defense. But the Hornet did it, and did the Navy proud. The F-18 Hornet had shown its sting. The FA-18D is the 2-seat version of the FA-18C. Unlike the FA-18B, the D model only has flying controls in the front seat and was intended as a 2-seat night attack aircraft rather than as a 2-seat trainer. Developed to become a Marine Corps workhorse, This one aircraft will replace 3 current aircraft in the attack, reconnaissance, and fast-forward air control roles. The flight officer seated in the aft cockpit is provided with 2 stationary hand controls, one on each side of the seat, to operate the weapon systems.
120 at 10.
The primary users of the Night Attack Hornet are Marine Corps units which are tasked with all-weather attack. This model of Hornet has also replaced another old Blue Angel aircraft, the A-4 Skyhawk, in the fast jet forward air control role. There's also a reconnaissance version of the FA-18D. By removing the M61 cannon and replacing it with a pallet-mounted electro-optical suite, the Hornet's scanners and sensors can data link images directly to commanders on the ground. Even though the first Night Attack Hornets were delivered in early 1990, they still took part in Operation Desert Storm. Operating out of Bahrain, it was one of these aircraft that first spotted the massive retreat of the Iraqi army from Kuwait City. 3 Hornets, flying as fast-forward air controllers, then coordinated the destruction of the convoy by other coalition aircraft.
Altitude. Altitude.
Q2 your left 930 low. Visual.
Aircraft at 22530 from East Bend, it is hot on you.
The FA-18D is configured for the night attack role, with forward-looking infrared and instrumentation, and cockpit arrangements modified for use with night vision goggles, which will allow pilots to fly as low as 100 feet. Operating out of Aviano Air Base in Italy, Marine Corps Hornets continued to prove their mettle as all-round versatile performers during NATO bombing raids against Bosnian Serb positions in the fall of 1995. The Marine Hornets were the only NATO aircraft in theater with cockpits and night vision goggles integrated for night attack and became masters of the night.
Impact point is steady. 15 seconds.
Okay.
Impact point is steady.
Okay, nice and easy on the turn. Stand by for designate.
Galaxy right-hand turn outbound. Galaxy has right-hand turn outbound.
Under the cover of darkness, Hornets flew right down on the deck, under the weather, and out of sight of ground fire, dropping laser-guided bombs with pinpoint accuracy.
Okay, cycle stern. Come stern.
They were even involved in the Marine Corps rescue of a downed F-16 pilot, Captain Scott O'Grady. 4 Hornets were directly involved in providing cover for the rescue, and 2 more were airborne, ready to help out as Captain O'Grady was brought out of danger.
That's now 20025 headed north. Second Banner 20029 headed north.
227.
Joining this way.
227. Magic 12 Whiskey 227 Alpha Bravo.
This is Magic 80, say your call's on again.
12 Whiskey 227.
Copy 12 Whiskey 227, say your position on bullseye.
You're approximately 25 miles southeast of bullseye.
Okay, I have contact. From you, you have Bandits 315, 15 miles headed south 5,000 feet. Second Bandits 330, 16 miles headed north. Echo 227, you have Bandits off your nose 185, 17 miles closing. Copy. Copy. That fighter's now 190, 12 miles, closing. He's at 5,000. 12 Whiskey 227, that fighter from U280, 12 miles, headed north at 5,000.
Whiskey 227.
12 Whiskey, affirm you're heading northeast at 1,000 feet.
Northeast at 250 feet.
Good copy. Copy, you're heading out to the east. Confirm you're going home. Copy. Your data is now 225, 14 miles from you, headed south. Whiskey 227, your nearest fighter bandit is 290, 17 miles, 7,000 feet.
Whiskey 227.
Echo 227, bandits 240, 19 miles, headed south, 7,000. Second bandits 225, 22 miles, headed south at 4,500. Echo 227, bandits 230, 15, headed south, 10,000.
Roger.
Echo 227, bandits 230, 13. Turning southeast, 12,000.
227 switching to 10.
Copy that.
26, good.
Other bandits are RTB. Confirm what type aircraft.
Whiskey 227 with 2 Django.
Copy. Still have your AIM-9s mounted?
Ain't positive.
Copy, call your kills. 160, 37 miles, headed west, 17,000. Your bandits 160, 30 miles, headed west, 17,000. 227, do you want to avoid or engage?
We'll engage.
Copy. Bandits 165, 26 miles, headed northwest, 17,000. Up to 4 F3s. Bandits 170, 20, still headed west, 17,000. Bandits 170, 19. Bandits 170, 17, still 17,000, headed west.
Bravo 1. Magic Rambo 3 aircraft, flight level 160, heading west, what you were just talking about.
Rambo, we have positive contact. Contact Magic 264, decimal 4 for control.
2644, yeah. Parameter 2644, 2644, yeah.
227, your bandit's 170, 13, 3 up 3s. Bandit's headed west, they're still at 17,000. Expect bandits to turn north and close. Bandit's 170, 10 miles, descending through 15,000. Still headed west. Bandits are ready to descend, they're 170, 10 miles. Bandits 1709. Bandits 1758, still headed west, 12,000. Bandits 1757. Show you evading south. Show you split. Eastern band, Bandits 2005 miles, headed west, now turning north at 9,000.
Coming out, 10.
Western band, Bandits 1706 miles, headed north. Western band, Bandits 1605 miles. Western band, Bandits 1204 miles. Engaged with 1.
The McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet was developed in the late 1970s as a twin-engine, multi-mission tactical aircraft for the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps. Since it became operational in the early 1980s, over 1,300 Hornets have been delivered worldwide, even to Kuwait after its liberation.
VGT fuel flow nozzle, oil pressure, thrust, and fuel temperature. Seeing that temperature, 28. It's good.
15 for takeoff.
Elwood 15, cleared for takeoff.
15.
Let's go. 1-2 burners. Okay, that was the first loop. 2,000 on top, 200 knots is good. And we're gonna get about 150 on top, 3,600 feet, plenty of altitude. Out of burner, show center.
Altitude.
Steam inverted, weight 2,000 and back down. What have we got? 3,000 feet is plenty. And setting up for the 360.
Altitude. Altitude.
Back for the slow speed pass, a few birds. Won't be a biggie. There's 20 alpha already. And we're getting down, the hook's coming down. Stinger is out. I'll wait until I'm a bit closer, I'm not moving at all. see where we get on the ground. 115 on the ground. Wish I had more winds than that.
Would a pilot in combat ever do such a stunt? If you engage in dogfighting at high speeds, you have to make bigger turns. The slower your speed, the tighter your turn radius, and the more likely you are to get behind a faster opponent.
And there's the crowd. 300 feet. Let's keep those burner in. Clover leaf. 3,500 pounds of gas. Plenty of juice. There's show center. And there's the clover leaf.
Altitude.
Up now.
Altitude.
$2,000 feet is looking good. 3,000 feet is plenty. Back down. And a few roll. Back up. 70 degrees is good enough. Inverted. Pause. 1, 2, 3. Give it 3,000 feet, and there we go. Now, slow roll with inverted pass.
Bingo. Bingo.
The F-18 Hornet is uniquely able to perform the maneuvers you're watching. The reason is not that the Hornet is fast, which it is, but that it's also capable of going slow, which it does. The F-18 has such a tremendous power-to-weight ratio, it's able to defy the usual rules of aerodynamics and rely on pure power alone.
For the crowd. Okay, vertical departure, and there's the crowd, 300 feet. Let's keep those burner in.
With 32,000 pounds of thrust, an F-18 can climb like a rocket, and that's what's being shown by this solo pilot.
And vertical roll through 7,000 feet.
The climb comes out to an inverted loop, and then a beautifully controlled series of 90-degree stop rolls.
Bingo. Bingo.
Here again is a solo vertical takeoff and climb with a corkscrew roll.
Cloverleaf.
Here's the best photo opportunity, the underside and topside of an F-18. Surprisingly, some maneuvers that look hair-raising on the ground are a walk in the park for the pilots who have an entirely different perspective. Others that may look easy on the ground, such as the negative push-out on the inverted pass, are anything but easy to the men in the air.
Bingo.
And that's the last pass for the West 15. And 15 for full stop.
Elwood 15, cleared land on 33 with gear down.
15, clear green.
Altitude.
Good as it is, the Navy and Secretary of Defense knew the F-18 Hornet could be better. The Hornet needed a greater range, a bigger payload, and the ability to return to a carrier deck with more of its weapons unused. That desire produced upgrade studies, which resulted in this configuration, the F-18E. If it didn't have the name on its flank, it would take a real expert to tell the difference between the F-18C and the F-18E. There is a difference, a big difference. The F-18E can carry 1/3 more internal fuel, which means it can fly 40% farther than the C model. Put that in a combat air patrol scenario at 200 nautical miles from home, and the E model can remain on station 80% longer. The addition of 2 new wing store stations means the F-18E can undertake more complex missions because its maximum external payload has been increased from 13,700 pounds to 17,700 pounds. It can also bring 3 times more external payload weight back to the ship because of a stronger wing structure. In terms of size, the F-18E is 34 inches longer than previous models, and its wings are 25% larger with 100 additional square feet of surface area. All these external changes have been accompanied by internal ones as well. The most important is a beefed-up engine. Powering the upgraded Hornet will be two General Electric F414 engines derived from the highly reliable F404 family in today's F-18s. The F414s will provide 44,000 pounds of combined thrust, enabling the E model to meet or exceed the C model's outstanding aerodynamic performance.
Roger ball, Super Hornet.
Taken together, the F-18E provides greater range and endurance, carries a heavier payload, has more bring-back capability, and greater growth potential, and at the same time has equal or better performance than its predecessors. After the current engineering and manufacturing development contract is concluded, it's anticipated the Navy will buy 1,000 F-18E fighters from 1997 until the year 2015. Technologies developed for both the F-18 and the F-16 will also be used for this, the Joint Strike Fighter. This is a computer simulation of the Joint Strike Fighter from Lockheed Martin. One quick look and you can see right away it's a single-engine fighter like the F-16, but that's where the similarities stop. The leading and trailing edges of the wing and tail have identical sweep angles. The vertical tails are canted, and the engine face is deeply hidden by a serpentine inlet duct. In fact, the whole design, like the F-22, is intended to be stealthy, which is why there's no provision for externally carried fuel or munitions. All fuel, weapons, and targeting systems will be carried internally. But that's not the big story. The surprise is that the Marine version of the JSF as a short takeoff vertical landing capability, much like the AV-8B Harrier. This fact will allow Marine jets to accompany ground forces into enemy territory within minutes of it being seized. Almost any road or hard surface will do for a landing pad. The JSF's vertical performance is accomplished through the use of a shaft-driven lift fan, 2 roll ducts at mid-plane, and a swiveling main engine exhaust nozzle. The concept, invented at Lockheed's top-secret Skunk Works, eliminates hover problems involving high temperature and high velocity air by providing much of the downward thrust with cool air from the lift fan. And none of this is just theoretical. The lift fan, roll ducts, and swiveling nozzle have already been the subject of extensive testing. It doesn't take too much of a stretch to believe that the factory that produced the F-16 could also be producing the 21st century aircraft for the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. Imagine what air shows will look like then, when these teams will be able to take off vertically, hover in midair, and land right in front of spectators. Yes, there will be thunder aplenty in the 21st century, for our enemies and for our friends alike.
May God bless you, and may He watch over the United States of America.